here as well as others.
How do you plan this sort of happening in the future? And then also, do you have any understanding of how many of these individuals are from in the state and how many are from out of state?
We don't know that information yet, but we do know that the organization ADL has put out information about Patriot Front. We know the founder, I believe, is originally from Texas.
Who is here.
Right. And so, what we've seen is leafleting and information in Rhode Island, in New Hampshire, in Maine, in Boston.
And license plates.
And what we are doing is we are within the bounds of the Constitution, seeing how we can monitor this information, but the public has a lot more ability to give us information as well. One of the things the mayor and I talked about when we look at, these type of groups that have a racially motivated violent extremism bent to them is we need to empower people, mostly in the white community, to say, when you see somebody that you love that is starting to become radicalized, that is talking about using language that makes you uncomfortable, you should hopefully be able to go to local law enforcement and say, I'm worried about my brother or my sister or my uncle or my loved one. We would rather you do that and be wrong than be the parent of somebody, in Illinois, right? The young man that just took all these lives there or had some of these ideologies as well. So we are monitoring as much as we can, but we will be reconvening after this meeting to see what else we can do more proactively.
Last question of the police alongside these folks as they're marching, and we're just curious as to why police didn't stop them from doing the march, especially knowing what happened in Idaho, how they stopped them before ever getting to the Pride Parade. Could this have been stopped before this man was assaulted?
So I'll say that much of what I learned over the weekend and many conversations with the FBI, with BPD, with other law enforcement partners, and with U.S. attorneys, that the First Amendment provides a level of protection where these groups creep right up to the edge of the boundaries of that. The First Amendment does not provide protection for threats, intent to commit violence, inciting violence, or the commission of violence and other acts that constitute hate crimes and other criminal behavior. What we know is that in Idaho, this group, there was information ahead of time, intelligence that was received, that the intent of this group was to go disrupt and possibly incite violence at a scheduled event that was taking place, a pride event in their community. Here we did not have intelligence ahead of time and did not, unfortunately, know that they were planned to come here and disrupt our festivities, and there was also not a specific bit of information that they were intending to incite violence. We are looking to count on the residents and everyone in our community to share information, following up on the civil rights investigation for the assault that did occur, and any individual identified involved in that will be prosecuted. And so we have kicking it up to the federal government and our local government.
So it sounds like that next weekend, if Patriots Fund or another Patriot plans to march through the city of Boston, is there much that can be done?
The First Amendment, unfortunately, in this case, we're seeing a rise of hate across the country. Many of these groups are using the full boundaries within the First Amendment to create a sense of fear and unease and intimidation in our communities. It is protected for people to espouse their ideologies that are hateful. The line is when it turns into threats or anything worse than that. So we're working very closely to ensure that we can be proactive and monitor the situation and be prepared.
So thank you so much, everyone. Do you think that the police should have stopped this march?
What I can say is we are in constant contact with the Boston Police, the State Police, and the FBI to see if they did not witness any crimes in their presence. They did question the individuals. We believe we have FIOs there. I'm going to be looking into with the mayor to see what we could have done better, what we need to continue doing moving forward. But right now, this is not vilifying the police. This is making sure that people in our communities know that hate has no place here in Boston or Massachusetts, and we're going to do everything we can to stop it.
It was, very intense because there was a lot of angst around what happened over the weekend with the white supremacy group that was marching through the streets of the city of Boston. People wanted answers on exactly how the procedure took place of allowing allowing them to do this, and then also the assault on the young individual. I believe somewhere around Copley Square or somewhere in that region where the assault took place, and those questions on why there was no arrest, what was the circumstances surrounding it, and then what can we do going forward in terms of pushing back on these hate groups, nationally, because obviously most of these, I think all these people, none of them were actually from here. They were from other states, and so the question is, how do you proceed going forward with a lot of these hate groups that are out there, and how do you combat if they're going to try to do something like that again in the city of Boston?
Someone was saying that actually this city or even the state might have known about this already.
I'll let them describe exactly what they knew, and it didn't seem like there was much warning on this front, at least from what I gathered from the law enforcement that was in there. FBI was in there, the state police were in there, the city of Boston, the police was in there. Obviously the U.S. attorneys and the district attorney's office was there. There was every layer of law enforcement was in that room.
So in your opinion, what's the best way to address this?
It's hard to say, because there's First Amendment rights, but then obviously, it seemed that there was a little bit more cavalier in their ability to walk around with shields, be a little more aggressive than I think they should have been. But I think there's also a balancing act that the mayor spoke on, and I'm sure she'll speak on it later. There was a balancing act on not bringing attention to these groups, because that's what these groups want. They want the attention. If you engage with them more, you bring more attention to them. And so I think that is a balancing act that is very difficult, and one that I think we're trying to, as a community, figure out.
Thank you. No, I don't think that anyone's come up to a conclusion. I think people don't want to be presumptuous or reactionary, right? So I think that as a counselor, I'm probably going to go back and talk to my colleagues and talk to the mayor and see exactly how we can get ahead of this, as opposed to just being reactionary every single time. And I think there needs to be a sense of urgency here, right? So if there's precedent set that it's okay to come to Boston to do this, to protest, white supremacists to protest in this way, then I think that all people of color, all Jewish people, all religion, all faiths should get together, right? LGBTQ community, we should then set the tone that it's not okay, and then obviously be strategic in our planning and our coordination, making sure that our community understands or some sort of action plan, but also educating whites or white people or the white community that they need to teach their children, look, these are things that your children could be privy to, could be exposed to, could be learning, right? And somehow on a subconscious level and maybe consciously internalizing it, you should probably pay attention to this.